So it's late 2025. The iPhone 17 Pro has been out for a couple of months now, and everyone's talking about that new aluminum unibody and the vapor chamber cooling. But honestly, I think the most interesting phone on the market right now isn't the new one. It's this one. This is the iPhone 16 Pro. I've been using this specific unit as my backup daily driver and for review purposes for about a month now. I actually bought it off a friend of mine. Great condition, warranty still active, and I realized something. With the price drop since the 17 series launched, this phone has gone from being the flagship to being arguably the best value iPhone you can buy right now. In this video, I want to take a humble, honest look at how the 16 Pro holds up in late 2025. We're going to talk about that desert titanium design, the performance with the A18 Pro chip, battery life, which, spoiler alert, is kind of insane on my unit, and of course the cameras and software. I'll also be real with you about Apple Intelligence versus the competition. If you're sitting on an iPhone 13 or 14 Pro and wondering if you really need to spend top dollar on the 17, or if you can save some cash and grab this video is for you. Just to give you some context on where I'm coming from, I actually skipped the 16 Pro when it first came out last year. I stuck with my 15 Pro, waited it out, and then eventually upgraded to the iPhone 17 Pro as my main daily driver. So using the 16 Pro now, in retrospect, gives me a really unique perspective. It's like the mature middle sibling between the older generation and the bleeding edge. My unit here is the desert titanium color, and personally, I think this is peak design. It's sleek, it's elegant, it's got this warmth to it that the black and white titaniums just don't have. Since I bought this used from a friend in January 2025, it's been treated well. And check this out. My battery health is still at 100% with a cycle count of 171. That is honestly wild for a year-old model, but we'll get into why that might be in a minute. Let's start with the design. You know, coming back to this titanium frame after seeing the new aluminum unibody on the 17 Pro, I honestly think titanium wins. It's grade 5 titanium, which is this aerospace grade alloy that blends extreme strength with being surprisingly lightweight. When you hold the 17 Pro, that new aluminum unibody feels fine, it's functional, but it lacks that specific density you get here. The 16 Pro has this quality. It feels dense and substantial without being a brick. And there's the durability factor. Aluminum is softer. If you drop the 17 Pro or bump it hard, it's prone to denting or nicking much easier than this. Titanium is much harder, so it holds its shade better over time. I've bumped this phone against keys, tables, you name it, and the rails still look pristine. Plus, this specific desert titanium finish has this microblasted texture that feels soft to the touch, almost warm, unlike the cold, slippery anodization you usually get with aluminum. You just don't feel like you have to baby it the same way. Display-wise, this was the year Apple bumped the size up to 6.3 inches from the old 6.1. And having used it for a month, I can say this size is the sweet spot. It's not a surfboard like the Max, but it gives you just enough extra room for typing and content. The ProMotion display is buttery smooth, 120Hz adaptive refresh rate. I know the 17 Pro pushes the brightness even higher, hitting that 3000 nits mark, but honestly, the 2000 nits peak on the 16 Pro is still plenty. I've never been outside and thought, man, I can't see my screen. Now let's talk performance. Inside here is the A18 Pro chip. I ran some Geekbench 6 tests just to see where we stand in late 2025. I got a single core score of 3448 and a multi-core score of 8748. For graphics, the Metal score was 32766. Those numbers are massive. It basically means this phone eats apps for breakfast. I've been using this for everything, basic scrolling, work apps, but also heavy gaming. It handles AAA titles for the next generation and it is really playable. And here's the thing about heat. You might remember the 15 Pro had some thermal issues. The 16 Pro improved on that with the graphene thermal sheet. It's not the vapor chamber we have in the new 17 Pro, so yeah, it still gets warm, but it's not that annoying hot potato kind of heat. It gets warm, spreads the heat out, and keeps performance stable. Also, this phone has 8GB of RAM. That's actually the same as the base model iPhone 17. So in terms of longevity, you're safe. I notice way fewer app reloads compared to when I re-review older phones with 6 or 4GB of RAM. Multitasking is still very snappy. Software is where this phone really feels alive right now. It's running iOS 26, which came out a few months ago. If you haven't seen the new Liquid Glass design language, it is gorgeous. The transparency, the new animations, It makes iOS 18 look ancient. There's a fluidity here that I think I just got used to, but going back to older iOS, you really feel the gap. I did notice something when I first updated though. The phone got pretty warm for the first day or two. I think it was just re-indexing system files and my personal data to settle in, but after that initial period, it smoothed out. Okay, I really want to dive into the battery life because this is where the 16 Pro has seriously impressed me. First, look at these stats. My unit has a cycle count of 171 and the battery health is still at 100%. Now, usually you expect to lose about 1% of health for every 25 to 50 cycles. So statistically, I should be at like 96% or 97%. But the fact that it's holding 100% after nearly a year of use, since I know my friend used this before me, shows that the 16 Pro's battery chemistry is really resilient. Real world usage, it's fantastic. Apple bumped the battery size up to about 3,582 milliampere hours on this model, and you can feel it. Compared to the iPhone 15 Pro, which often struggled to make it to dinner time, the 16 Pro is a comfortable all-day phone. I unplug around 7 or 8 a.m. and with my mixed usage, lots of social media, some YouTube emails and calls, I'm usually ending the day with maybe 20 or 30% left in the tank. It's not the 2-day beast that the Pro Max is, but for a phone this size, it's reliable. Camera-wise, you're looking at a serious setup here. You've got the 48 megapixel Fusion main camera and a 48 megapixel ultra-wide. That high-res ultra-wide is actually a sleeper hit. It makes macro shots look incredibly sharp because you have so much more data to crop into. But the big deal, the reason you buy the Pro model now is the 5x telephoto zoom. If you remember, on the 15 Pro you were stuck with 3x. The 5x was exclusive to the Max, but on this 16 Pro, Apple managed to fit that Tetra Prism lens into the smaller 6.3-inch body. And having 5x, which is a 120mm focal length equivalent, is a game changer for portraits. It's all about compression. When you shoot a portrait at 120mm, the background seems to get pulled closer to your subject and it blurs out beautifully. And for the geeks out there, let's talk sensors for a second. The sensor on this 5x lens is actually physically larger than the old 3x lens on the 15 Pro. We're looking at a 1/3.06-inch sensor here versus the old 1/3.5-inch sensor. That sounds like a small difference, but in photography, sensor size is king. It means this zoom lens gathers more light and produces cleaner images even when the sun starts to go down. We also have to talk about that button, the camera control. Apple really hyped this up and technically they nailed it. Capacitive touch, pressure sensitivity, it's cool tech. But honestly, after a year, or well, a month of me using it, I don't use it that much. It's nice to have, but I find myself just tapping the screen because it's faster. It's more of a nice to have than a game changer for me. But hey, it can shoot 4K at 120 FPS, which is incredibly fun for cinematic slow-mo, if you're into video. Okay. Now let's talk Apple Intelligence. This phone was built for it, and yes, it supports all the features, writing tools, the new Siri, all that, but I'm gonna be real with you. It's not a huge deal for me. Even in late 2025, Apple Intelligence still feels a bit early, like it's in beta. For my workflow, I usually end up using Gemini or ChatGPT. They're just more powerful for reasoning and creative tasks. So if you're looking at the 16 Pro and worrying about AI performance, don't. It runs it fine. But the third-party tools are still where the real power is at. Before we wrap up, just a quick note on connectivity. The USB-C port here is USB 3. This is massive if you transfer files to a computer. It is vastly faster than the base model iPhone 16 or 17, which are still stuck on USB 2 speeds. If you shoot ProRes video or transfer a lot of photos, this Pro feature alone is worth the upgrade over a base model. Downsides. It still gets warmer than the new 17 Pro, and if you're coming from an older phone, the weight of the camera bump is noticeable, but otherwise, it's hard to fold this device. So verdict time, who is this for? If you are currently using an iPhone 13 Pro or older and you're confused about whether you need to drop big money on the 17 Pro, I'd say take a hard look at the 16 Pro. The price right now on the used or refurbished market is stealing. You get that premium titanium build, which I prefer over the aluminum. You get the 120Hz display, the 5x zoom, and a chip that is still absolutely crushing it in late 2025. If price isn't an issue, sure, the 17 Pro is the better phone technically, but the 16 Pro feels like the mature, refined version of the 15 Pro. It's reliable, it's fast, and in this Desert Titanium, it's just beautiful. For me, as a backup phone, it's been flawless. Anyway, that's been my experience with the iPhone 16 Pro after 1 year. Let me know in the comments if you're planning to pick one up or if you're holding out for the next big thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.